Hi, my name is Welch. Most of you know that I'm from Concord, Mass. And I first got interested in sustainability during my freshman year of high school. So my project I titled Energy Breakdown, a project on sustainability and conservation. So as I said, I'm from Concord, Mass. I go to Concord Carlisle Regional High School, which is our focused high school. There's 1,200 students there, and our building was erected in the mid to late 1900s. So in terms of sustainability and eco-friendliness, it's not very good. We haven't really implemented any sustainable practices at the school. In addition to that, we're actually building a new high school right now, which is going to be done in 2016. And once that's built, we're going to completely tear down our current building. One of the biggest problems that led me in the direction of electricity and energy concerns is that in 2012, the 2012 school year, our electricity budget was $305,000. We ended up going over that by $21,000. So I thought that seeing that and bringing that particular statistic to the administration would be a really good way to persuade them that it is something that they need to focus on. So my proposal for this is to create a green team, which some others have talked about. And it's pretty much just going to be a group of students from my school who are passionate about the environment and want to make a change in the community. So after I establish the green team, I'm going to use the power of the green team to give people knowledge. So to teach students, departments, administration, and families about being sustainable and why we created the green team and what we're planning on doing, what our projects are. Then, as I said earlier, we are building a new school, and our planning committee, we're going to try to work as a green team. We're going to try to influence the planning committee to make more sustainable choices when they're building a new school. So specifically, my project, I focused on using LED light bulbs instead of incandescent bulbs as one of the things that we wanted to persuade them to do. And lastly, of course, I want to give students a voice, because a lot of the time where administration and especially the planning committee is making big decisions, students don't really feel like they get heard. So having a green team would be a good way for students to feel like their voice is being heard. My goals for this in the short term are to have the green team set up and stable with a core group of members by October 1st. So that's pretty much a month into school for me. I want to be able to give presentations to the departments, each department, so English, math, science, etc., and to the administration as a whole. I want to talk about my experience here at SILS, why I want to do what I'm doing, and I also want to talk about the green team, what our mission would be, what we would be planning on doing, members, all of that. And I want to be doing those presentations throughout the month of September. In the long term, I'm hoping that the green team will be strong enough when I graduate at the end of this school year to carry on for the next few years, and especially into when we are moving into the new school building. I hope that it'll have a strong enough base that they'll be able to continue into the new building and continue to make better decisions to help the environment. As I said earlier, long-term goal is to get the planning committee agree to use LED lights in place of incandescent in the new building. Also in the long term, which this is a continuous goal for me personally, and this extends far beyond when I graduate, is education. I already mentioned it, but having the students educated and knowledgeable about sustainable practices, why they're important, how they work, and how to bring them to their own families or communities is very, very key into creating a sustainable environment at the school. Also, in terms of education, I really want to give the incoming freshman class a solid base of knowledge about sustainability and the environment so that they can continue to teach the grades below them. So the budget for the green team is nothing. It's pretty much just we set up a club at the school, which is pretty simple, and that's it. In terms of the LED bulbs, since the building has not yet been built, we don't know the number of fixtures, or I don't know the wattage that they're planning on using. So I use this calculator to do a sample budget. I use the equal amount wattage of incandescent and LED bulbs, and then I said we were going to be using 50 in this example. And I don't know if you guys can see this very well, but the initial investment is around $1,200, which can seem kind of daunting. But in reality, when you look at it, the current electricity cost using incandescent bulbs for this situation is around $160 a month for electricity. But once you switch over to LED bulbs, it's less than $20 a month. So for this particular example, the break-even point or the payback period is actually under 9 months. Obviously, the more bulbs we are using, the more fixtures we have, that'll vary. The resources that I'm going to be using, media is a really big one for me. So the CCHS Voice is our school newspaper. I know a lot of people who are on the newspaper committee, and I've already actually talked to a few who said they would be willing to write about the green team initially so that people would actually just hear about it, and then be willing to write about which projects we're working on and different things that we're doing. Secondly, the school email is just makes things a lot easier. I can send an email to every single teacher and every single student with just a click of a button, so there's no sorting through email addresses or having to find the email addresses. And then with Facebook, that'll be used when I have the green team put together pretty much. So once I have members, Facebook will be used to keep in touch between members, plan events, and just pretty much communication, a lot of communication. And the second resource is my science department. Having them back me up on the green team and the LED light bulbs idea will be big because they have, unfortunately, a larger influence than me. I have because they're adults and I'm just a student. And so my power map. So I have the science department up over there. My three main relationships that I feel like are the most important are the science department, class government, and the students. In the middle is my principal, Mr. Bedalman, who's on the planning committee also for the new building. So I want to reach out to the students because if the student body itself is interested in the green team and the initiatives that we want to put through, it's hard for the administration to say no if the majority of students are really interested in what's going on. The class government is important because they work directly with the principal and the rest of the administration. I know everyone in the class government, and I've also spoken to a few of them who said they would be willing to back me up and get on board with the idea. And lastly, the science department, as I just mentioned, they're a big player in this. Having their support will really drive my point through that this is something we should be focused on, something we need to do. So my action plan for the green team is to form a club, which pretty much requires me getting around 10 students to say they're interested and then a teacher to decide to be the facilitator, which I don't think will be difficult. And then finding a space. Usually after school activities, there's still tons of classrooms open, even with after school activities. And I've also, for the initial meetings, which I'm hoping to have a few during the summer before school starts, I would be willing to host them at my house. And then specifically about the meetings, I think at the beginning, for the first few months until we're, like a really solid group, I would probably have weekly meetings with everyone or whoever can show up. And then once we get to the point where we have the ball rolling, we're kind of in project mode, I think we would probably move to bi-weekly or maybe even monthly meetings instead. Mr. Nickel was my earth science teacher during my freshman year of high school. He was actually the teacher who got me interested in sustainability in the first place. I have worked with him on an independent study where we got the water bottle ban repassed in my town. I also did research for him because there's a sustainability initiative, solar panel initiative that's going through our town. And I also presented to his class about a bunch of different sustainability topics. Lastly, I'm going to try to use my seniority. As a senior, I do sort of have some power over the younger students, and I'm hoping that I can utilize that in a good way. And with the LED bulbs, it's pretty simple. Once we get the commitment from the committee, we just have to look at the types of bulbs, and from there, the number of fixtures. And once we have those two pieces, we can look at the prices and see where we would want to go with it. If we want to do all LED bulbs or partially or anything like that. The way that I'm going to see how the group is doing, and actually myself, I'm going to be setting weekly and monthly goals for not only the green team, but also for myself. I'm hoping to be the leader of the green team since I'll be creating it. So I think having weekly and monthly goals for myself is very important. In terms of weekly goals for the group, it would be something along the lines of email all of the planning committee members or make signs put around the school for this event. And monthly goals would be more along the lines of raise X amount of money for this project or meet with the planning committee 3 times, something like that. So overall, at my high school, CCHS, over the next school year, I want to be creating a green team. What we're going to be doing is working to get the committee to agree to LED bulbs in the new building, as well as providing education about sustainability to pretty much everyone in the community, specifically the students and the teachers, but also allowing them to have the knowledge to bring home to their families and other communities. Why? Because we need to save the planet. We are a generation that's been hit really hard with environmental issues, and starting while we're in high school and hopefully maybe being able to move that down through middle school and elementary school, have that knowledge, it's a lot easier to set up sustainable practices now than trying to change your ways in the future. The biggest thing how I'm going to do this is just through communication and collaboration. So that means communication between members of the planning committee and members of the green team, communication in general between members of the green team, and also communication between us and the administration. And collaboration also goes in line with the planning committee, because obviously some of the things we bring to them, they're probably going to want to compromise on or maybe turn down, and then we would kind of have to figure out what the middle ground would be. Questions?
Once you have the green team committee set up, and they go to the planning committee and they come back and they say, okay, what are your suggestions? What resources are you thinking of drawing from for just getting your green team to be able to respond to their building requirements?
So in terms of like what we...
If the building says like, okay, we have this much money and we can only do this, who are you planning to go to?
So the green team will hopefully be able to raise money for their projects through fundraising, as well as like different events maybe that we can hold. I know that my earth science teacher, Mr. Nickel, every month shows an environmentally based documentary, which is actually the reason I started getting interested in sustainability. I saw the movie Tap, which is about plastic water bottles. But being able to do things like that and like draw attention to us will hopefully also get money in, and obviously donations, things like that would be helpful to the budget in general. And then we would probably use the science department a lot to help us figure out the best way to talk to the planning committee and propose our ideas.
Just also, is your middle school attached to your high school?
No, so the high school is a separate building.
Oh.
Have you researched at all? So when they are going to knock down the old building, I feel like I don't know that much about deconstruction, but I think there's a lot of things that can go wrong, or like there's a lot of environmentally unfriendly things that can happen when buildings are just flattened. I was wondering if you had looked into that at all, or had any thoughts about how the green team could investigate that and try to help that process as well, or make suggestions for that.
So the LED lights is what I would kind of call a gateway project with the planning committee. That would be where we initially start, because it's, it would be a big thing, but it's insignificant in the scheme of making an entirely new building. That's something else that we would want to focus on as a project. So things like that, or like where we're going to be getting our energy from, if we're going to have gardens set up. So like definitely the destruction of the old building will hopefully be something that we can discuss with them.
So your school right now doesn't have a green team at all.
No.
Why do you think that is? Is it because of a lack of interest, or because it seems to me like if you have teachers like Mr. Nickel who show environmentally friendly films, it's like a little surprising as long as this hasn't been done before. Do you know why?
So we have an environmental science club, but they're not focused on the clean energy, sustainability, conservation as much as studying like pond bacteria or going out and looking at ecosystems and things like that. So the biology teacher, I think, is the head of the environmental science group. So it's a lot more studying like organisms as opposed to how can we treat the earth better. In terms of I know that there is a good amount of interest in sustainability, at least in the people that I hang out with at my school. There's a good amount of interest. And to be totally honest, I'm not particularly sure why we don't have green team yet.
I wanted to ask a similar question, and I don't want to put you on the spot to make up an answer to this, but I'm just interested in your opinion. You know, Concord, Carlisle, it's an affluent community. And I wonder if you have any ideas about how the school would have gotten to this point, where it's 20, what year is it, 13? And I mean, it's hard to find a school that doesn't have at least some retrofitting for energy conservation.
So, as you said, it's a very affluent town. It's a really wealthy town. A lot of what we talk about with social justice, I think, plays into it. A lot of people just don't really care enough, and they are too busy because CC is competitive academically and sports-wise. So a lot of times students will go to all their classes, like during school, get out 2:11, go to sports, come home, and they're pretty much doing their homework, not really focusing on, like how can I better the school environment, or how can I get like clean energy going at school. I actually also find it surprising that our school's so far behind in it. We have like recycling bins for bottles and paper, and more recently, students tried to set up what's called TerraCycle, which is certain wrappers for like certain like bags of chips and different things like that, or like the plastic that goes around Gatorade bottles that says Gatorade on it. A recycling program for that, which has been successful, but is also very like small scale right now at the school. But I'm also surprised that we don't really have much going on with that.
Well, that's why you're there.